Hello Desert Bearhawk fans, we're back in the shop and I'm doing a video today at the request of one of my followers who's in the process of about to assemble his spar. And his question was, how do I drill my cap strips for all these rivets right here? And you can see there's rivets all the way down either one. I think there's 138 rivets in each side. I think that's what I counted. Don't remember. So I started typing out a long email, and then I went back and read what I typed, and I understood it, but I only understood it because I'm the one that typed it, and I don't think anyone else would understand it. So I figured maybe a video would be a better way to go. So here is a quick video, and it probably won't be quick, it'll be kind of long, but we'll try to keep it as quick as we can. This is my right spar right here. As you can see, it's all completed. Over here on the table over here is my left spar, and it's starting to be completed. So we'll just work with the right spar because it's easier to show what I did. So the first thing you want to do when you're laying out these cap strips is you obviously want to lay out the center line of your spar web and get it all laid out so the spar web is, you got the proper length from this bolt hole right here to the center of the splice, which is right, you can just see it right there. This is the splice right in here. And the plans will show you what that measurement is. So you get this piece, this half of the spar web, you get that cut to length, and you want to get this piece mounted in here. These pieces, your spar attach plates, you want to get them mounted in here. And if you saw in an earlier video I did, I had a number 40 hole here, a number 40 hole here, and a number 40 hole here that I used to run these parts through the router with to pin them in place onto the tooling. I use those same holes to initially get these parts lined up. But basically, I think it's 1.5 inches from the center line of this hole to the center line of the spar web. And then of course you want this piece to sit square. So you got to do some measuring in there. But once you get this in square, these pieces in square, then you can slide in your full length cap strips and butt them up against, you can see where they butt up right up in there. You can butt them up against where they're going to be resting in their home position, if you will. So obviously if you've got not this top plate, but the plate, let's see if I can make this wider so it's, am I going wide? I'm going telephoto. Okay, there we go, wide. You don't want to have this top plate on, but you got the plate underneath, the one that's got the little cutout for the cap strip to go into. And I'm sorry, this hole wasn't the number 40 hole, it was this hole, and this hole. This hole, this one, and this one. This way I could calico the plate down to the spar web and I could still slide the cap strips in. So once they're slid in and they're home, and you've got the inboard spar web cut to length, and you got the outboard spar web cut to length, so your spar is now cut to its appropriate length and everything is in position, then you slide the cap strips in and you have to set up their distance from the center of the spar to the edge here. So you do your math and you set that up. So basically what you're going to do is have these cap strips running parallel to the center line on the desired spacing. The spacing at the root is going to be set because the aluminum piece you cut in here is going to have a set dimension, and the spacing at the splice is going to be set because the splice is of a certain dimension. So basically, once you locate one of the spar caps parallel to the center line, everything else will just stack on top of that and should come out pretty parallel. So what you're looking to do is get everything laid in there and clamped so it's all parallel all the way down off the center line, right off the center line. Then the next thing you're going to want to do is you want to make some measurements as to where you would want to drill holes, where you don't want to drill holes, where the second cap strips that stack on top, where they start, you can see that this one, the top forward cap strip starts right there. Right after this plate ends, that one starts. And that's important. When you're laying out just the 2 cap strips, not the second one, but just the 2, you want to mark that cap strip right there, and you want to mark it right there, so you do not drill these holes. Excuse me, I got to follow with the camera. You do not want to drill these holes or these holes when you're drilling on the bench. You want to drill these holes and these holes here when this whole thing is clamped together as an assembly, because you're going to locate holes through this plate, through the cap strip, through the other cap strip, and through the other plate. So you got to drill them as a stack. It'll make sense to you when you do it, but just mark, put a little tick mark right here and a tick mark right here, so when you're drilling with your drill jig, you don't drill these holes. You drill these, and you drill, obviously you drill those, but you don't drill these holes, because you got to do that. Gosh darn it, I got to follow it with the camera. Don't want to drill these holes here, because those need to be drilled as an assembly. So once you got this all together, you're going to start measuring out from the edge of your cap strip out, and you're going to measure out to rib number 9. It says it in the book, rib number 9, which is right about there. And you're going to put a tick mark there. You're going to put a center line for the rivet, but you're not going to drill rib number 9. You do that when you assemble the spar. Okay, then you're going to come out here and you're going to locate the splice. This is where rib number 11 goes, right here. You don't want to rivet those holes until rib number 11 is ready to go in place. So actually, when you're riveting your spar caps, you don't want to rivet any of the rib locations, because those require extra pieces after you get 90% of the ribs or the spar cap rivets in. Anyhow, you want to locate the spar plate, and you also want to indicate where the holes for the steel are going to be, and the pulley, so you don't drill those, because the spacing on these is a little bit off of that .1026 spacing that the normal rivets would be. So you want to make sure you locate all your holes here on your top and bottom cap strips, the initial 2 that you have clamped in position. And then the last thing you want to do is you want to measure out to the aileron steel location, and you want to mark those holes as don't drill. Of course, you can see that I did drill. So I'm telling you what not to do. I did it, but it just so happens that this hole is in the exact spot it needs to be. So that's what, measure twice, cut once does for you. I kind of lucked out on that. But when you're doing it, I would recommend not drilling these holes until you start to assemble the spar. So now that you've marked the location of all of your ribs, that you can see by these angles, you've marked the locations of all the places you shouldn't drill around the spar splice, and you've marked the location of rib number 9, then you can start to drill your ribs. Let's take a walk around my shop, or excuse me, your cap strips. Walk around the shop here. And what I did to drill my cap strips is I fabricated a tool. And this is the tool I made. It's basically a piece of 2-inch by 24-inch flat 1/4-inch plate steel. And then I used a mill to drill my holes here that represent my rivets. And those holes are 1.026 of an inch on center. Of course, please do your own math. But you'll notice that there's also a divot right there. I don't know if you can see it. You can see this one. A little divot. That's the indication of a rib, a rib, a rib, and a rib. And the distance between ribs is critical. The distance between the rivets that are between the ribs, not so much critical. But this rivet and this rivet, that distance, pretty critical. 7 3/16 of an inch on center. So once you make this tool, And if you're smart, you'll drill these holes 5/8 of an inch from the edge. So when you line up, and imagine this being a cap strip I got right here, when you line it up right to the edge, you don't have to measure or fiddle with anything. You just start drilling your holes. And of course I welded in a stop here, so my piece comes in. I'm doing this one-handed, guys, so give me a little latitude here, but my piece comes in and hits the stop, and now I'm ready to drill. Okay? So you've marked your ribs over there, or your cap strips rather, and now you got them over here on the bench. First hole you're going to drill is, the first hole you're going to use is the number 9 rib location. You should have a 90-degree line drawn across your material right where the center line of that number 9 location. So you're going to measure from the root out and draw a line. And you just line that line up in, what I did is I used this rivet hole right here, which is a rib. So I just sighted through there with my piece on here like so. I sighted through there and I lined that line right up in the center of that hole, and then I did not drill that hole. Don't drill that hole. But I started drilling this hole, 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 and I drilled all of the other holes the other way. Okay? So now I've located my number 9 rib, and I can start moving to the root and towards the tip. And each time I drill, so like if I finish here on a rib, then when I line my tool up again, I'm going to line up this hole right here, which is a rib, into this hole right here using a rivet as a pin it together, and then start drilling down towards the root again. And I'll do that all the way down until I get to that spot where I marked. Don't drill. I don't drill those holes. And then I'll start working the other direction towards the tip. Of course, not drilling where I marked not to drill holes. So once I get the cap strip all the way drilled, root to tip, with every hole that should be in it, then it's time to drill its matching mate. So, you know, here's my spar I'm working on now. This cap strip is on top. There's another one on the bottom here. There's a mate. There's always 4 full-length cap strips on either side. So I get the mate to that, and what I do is I took my bench, and you can see down here, I've got these little 90-degree fences screwed to my bench. I snapped a string, and I came in and I put these little 90-degree, and they go all the way down to the end down there. There's lots of stuff in the way, but you can see them. And what that allows me to do, it allows me to butt the cap strip up against it and butt another one on top of it right up against it, so they're both together in the same spot. And at the root here, I've got a stop block. So the root of the master butts up against this, and the root of the one that's going to be drilled butts up against this, the master on top, sliding them tight against this fence all the way down, and then clamping the snot out of it with, you know, here's all my clamps right here. Well, it's not all of them, but it's a bunch of them. You clamp it down all the way down. Then what I do is I just start at one end, and I start match drilling the holes. Now keep in mind that you want to have a clamp, you know, within a couple of inches of the hole you're drilling on either side. Otherwise, material is going to force itself in between the two parts and start to buckle them apart, and that's going to screw up your rivet spacing. So drill a hole, then once you drill a hole, take a rivet and pin the two pieces together. Move on to the next one. Drill that hole, pin the two pieces together. Move on down to the next, leaving it clamped as much as you can, moving clamps where you need to drill, all the way down. So when you're done, you're going to have 2 full-length cap strips that are the same, drilled exactly the same. Then once that's done, then what I do is, depending on which cap strip it is, if it's the If it's the, let's see, in this case this would be the bottom forward, you can see I've got another cap strip that's stacked on top of it. Starts right there. I'd mark that location on my bench and on my cap strip here, and I would set that, the undrilled one, down below, lining up, and I'll show you the actual line. Here's the line right there. You can see that line. So I just line that up like that, and I've already cut that cap strip to length. I believe that one's a 72-incher. Then I'd stack my other cap strip on top of it, lining up with the end block down here. Clamp everything into position, and now I'd match drill all the holes on that one to this. And I would do that for each one of these on either side using the 2 initial cap strips that I laid out and marked all my do not drill locations. That's how I would do it. Now, the only thing that I do between the top and the bottom that's mirror image is that when I get ready to drill my first holes in the opposing set of cap strips, so if I did all of the top ones, excuse me, these are all the bottom ones, if I did all the bottom ones and I'm getting ready to drill my top ones, I want to make sure that these rivets here line up. So what I'll do is I'll take one of the bottom ones as a master, and I will bring it over and I will tick mark rivet number 9, and I'm looking for it now, and I'm having a hard time seeing it. I got new glasses, I can't see anything anymore, it seems like. Oh yes, rivet number 9. I'll tick mark in for rivet number 9, then I'll line that tick mark up with my tool, and then again I will drill these and those, not drilling number 9. And that helps me keep my spar webs aligned, so the rivet for the bottom of the rib attach point and the top of the rib attach point, they line up perfectly. So I match drill them all that way, all 8 of them that way, with a number 30 drill bit. Then you take all of that apart and you start deburring like crazy. And here's a deburring helpful hint. I'm going to show you right here. I got to set you down for 1 second, grab a tool. Okay, got my tool, I think. Alright, if you're going to deburr about a bazillion holes, which is what you're going to do, and keep in mind these are all number 30s, you want to get this little adapter right here from Avery, and then put your deburr tool into that, and then you can take that and you can put that deburr tool into a little electric screwdriver like this one my friend John sent me. It turns at a slow rate of speed, like so. It doesn't turn too fast, and you can deburr your holes pretty painlessly. It works. It's a lot better than using one of these guys that you spin around by hand. It's kind of, there's a lot of holes to deburr, but you got to deburr all the holes. It's really important. Once that's done, I'm just going to try to walk you back over here without unplugging this. Let's see. Camera batteries are dead, so I have to use a power adapter. Once you're done deburring all the holes, you lay everything back out again, just like you did initially. And I'm going to flip this over now. There we go. There we go. Flipped it over. So you lay everything out again, just like you did before. I need more cord. Just like you did before. And measure everything again, making sure you get the center lines lined up. Make sure everything is perfectly straight. Run a string, do that whole deal, and then start clamping this thing down. And I mean, I've got 50 plus clamps in my little clamp box, and you just clamp it down. C-clamps. Clamp these down. And just the 2, not all 8, just the 2. And what you're going to be doing now is you're going to be match drilling these holes that you drilled in here to the spar web. So you come through, and what I do is I like to drill a hole, Coleco, drill a hole, put a rivet in it to pin it. Drill a hole, Coleco. Drill a hole, put a rivet in to pin it. So every other hole is a Coleco, every other hole is a rivet. And you're going to drill them to number 30 again. So drill and pin number 30. Once you get that done, take the whole assembly back apart and deburr your webs, your center webs. And when I say once you've drilled everything, make sure you've drilled the holes for the rivets in the attach plates as well. You can't see them as well because this side's primed, but you're drilling every hole. You want to drill all your number 30 holes in your splice plate too. Drill all your holes, okay? Except for the holes for the vertical bars. We'll get to those in a minute. So once you've drilled all those holes, take everything apart, deburr it again. Now you put it all back together, but this time you put it back together with all the cap strips. The full length one on top, the full length one on bottom on the top, full length one on top, and full length one on the bottom, and then the additional cap strips wherever they may be. Let's see, there they are right there. Basically you put the spar together in the sense that you've got all the cap strips and you Coleco them in. Try to you don't need to pin each hole at this point. Just Coleco them in. Put as many Colecos as you can get. Get everything the way you want it. Make sure you put the center splice in here, the splice plate, and bring these two cap strips tight against it, because there's movement and you don't even want a thousandth of an inch movement. You want this all tight, nice and tight. So once it's all Coleco together, everything's nice and tight and in position, and the whole deal. And you can even skip some Colecos, like at number 9 where there's no hole. I put a clamp there, clamp that sucker down. Once it's all clamped, Colecoed, everything's in position the way you want it. Now you start drilling your holes for number 21, and keep in mind that some of these holes on the spar attach plate, these are number 30s. All the holes on the splice are number 30s, but the holes along the cap strips are all number 21s. So what you want to do is you want to drill a hole, pin it with a rivet, a number 5 rivet. Drill a hole, Coleco. Drill a hole, pin it. Drill a hole, Coleco. All the way down the line. And you want to have, when you're drilling this hole, you want to have this hole Colecoed and this hole Colecoed, or clamped. You want to have a clamp on either side of the hole you drill. Otherwise, material is going to get between. It's going to bow things up and screw it up. But if you do it like that, if you drill and Coleco and pin, drill, Coleco, pin all the way down, you'll eventually have all of your holes all perfectly matched, drilled to each other. Everything will be ready to go. Then all you have to do is take the whole dang thing apart again, deburr all those holes again. Then you can put it all back together. People are saying, why are you taking it apart, putting it back together so many times? Well, I want to get the holes deburred. I want this thing to be as neutral and natural as it can be. Then you lay out your vertical bars, drill those holes, lay out your lightning holes, so you can cut those with the fly cutter once you take it apart the final time, and you're ready to go. At that point you would take it all apart, cut your lightning holes, deburr everything again on any holes that you haven't deburred before, prime it up, and then when you assemble it for the final time, it's going to look like this. Now I don't have any of my rivets in here yet. I don't have this plate pinned, but you can see that I've got all the rivets, and this is the front side of the spar, all the rivets in the hole, and everywhere there's a rib, I put a Coleco. Coleco, Coleco, Coleco. Does a couple things for me. It keeps me from putting a rivet in that hole and riveting it, which I don't want to do, and it holds everything together. So you can see now that all the ribs are in, or all the rivets are in place, and I got rivet tape holding them down. Now this spar right here is ready to rivet. All I have to do is set up my C-frame over there, get it in position in its little pocket right over here, and I'm ready to rivet. I've got all my rivets in position. I am going to put some rivets, some number 6 rivets in these holes here, a couple. I won't put all of them, just to keep this from moving. It probably won't move, but I want to make sure it doesn't for sure. I will probably come through and put at least one number 6 rivet in each vertical bar and tape it down to make sure the vertical bars don't move. But you want to have these bars in here, because I'm here to tell you right now, even with these rivets pinning it down, when you start smashing rivets, this material is going to move around, and then you're going to have to adjust these bars to get them back in. So if you just put them in now, they can't move, and it keeps the spacing held in place. So that's how I drill my cap strips for my spars. It may not be the best way to do it, but I've had pretty good success. I'm pretty happy with things, and soon I will be riveting. And by soon I mean about the time I'm done shooting this video. So I hope it was helpful to you guys. I hope Brad got his questions answered. And if anything was unclear, feel free to ask me questions in the comments and I will try to answer them. I know sometimes I get to talking and I got the video camera pointing over here and over there and anywhere but where I'm supposed to be looking. I apologize for that. I'm a little OCD that way, or ADD, or DBA, or BFD, or whatever the hell it is. But anyways, try to get you guys some quality video here. If you have any questions, shoot me a comment and I will try to answer those as quickly as I can. And Brad, I hope this helps. If it doesn't, ask me what you don't understand and I will either shoot more video or type you an email. I was typing an email, but it got to be too ridiculous. I figured a video would be better. So again, just match drill your master cap strip to its mate, and then everything off of that with the number 30. Then get everything calicoed in place, and then drill the whole stack, all 4 of them and the center web at once. Put a rivet in it and pin it down. That's the best way to do it. Nothing will move if you do it that way. Alright, I hope that helps out. Hope you found it entertaining. It's been a long video. I'm glad you stuck with me, and until next time, we'll see you in the shop.